Namaste and good evening, everyone. I, Sunidhi Agarwal, Senior Research Assistant at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान New Delhi, extend my heartiest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. Today, we are gathered here for our special talk, The State of Skill Development in India, Impact, Policies, and the Way Forward amidst the coronavirus pandemic, which is being delivered by Professor Randhir Singh Rathore. This talk is being organized by IMPRI, Center for Work and Welfare, along with Counterview under the series, The State of Employment and Livelihood, #Employment Debate. We are fortunate to have Professor Randhir Singh Rathore as the speaker of the session and Mr. Sudheesh Venkatesh, Dr. G Sridevi, and Dr. Pabitra Kumar Jena as the discussants of the session. It is my absolute honor and privilege to introduce you to the speaker of the session, Professor Randhir Singh Rathore. Professor Randhir Singh Rathore is the Professor of Policy Planning and Research and Registrar in Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana, which is the first skill university set up by the government. Professor Rathore served in Government Engineering Colleges, Ajmer, in the Department of Physics and the All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi, in various capacities. He was closely associated with the major skill development initiatives of the government during his service in AICTE as Director Skill Development. Professor Rathore was a member of the Indian delegation visiting the USA to study the community college system in 2012 to formulate community college scheme for India and was an invited member in American Association of Community Colleges Annual Convention 2015. He was nominated by the Ministry of Human Development, Government of India, to represent India in 2017 for a training program in vocational education for officers from South Asia in China. He also participated in World Skills at Russia. Professor Rathore is the chairman of the National Skills Qualification Framework Committee of National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology, New Delhi, and a member of the Board of Governors of Apparel Training and Design Center, Gurugram, Mahila Engineering College, Ajmer, and Bharatiya Skill Development University, Jaipur. He is a life member of the Indian Desalination Association and Indian Society for Technical Education, New Delhi. It's my privilege to be present among such esteemed panelists, and now I would like to introduce Mr. Sudheesh Venkatesh, Dr. G Sridevi, and Dr. Pabitra Kumar Jena. Mr. Sudheesh Venkatesh has been associated with the Azim Premji Foundation for the past 1 decade. He is the Chief Communications Officer and Managing Editor of Azim Premji Foundation and serves on the Board of Management of Azim Premji University. Dr. G Sridevi is the Associate Professor of the School of Economics at the University of Hyderabad, Telangana. Dr. Pabitra Kumar Jena is the Assistant Professor of the School of Economics at the Shri Mata Vaishno Devi University, Katra, Jammu and Kashmir. I would now like to request the speaker of the session, Professor Randhir Singh Rathore, to give his opening remarks and deliberation on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunidhi. So over to you, Randhir sir. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sunidhi, for giving such elaborated introduction. And thanks to Dr. Arjun for giving me this opportunity to be part of this deliberation at this very critical juncture. It's my privilege to have with me the experts like Mr. Sudheesh, Dr. Sridevi, Dr. Pabitra from three different corners of the country. Basically, I will keep my discussion of around 20-25 minutes on 3 different aspects. The first aspect is the presentation of the facts or the statistics. Generally, we are aware. The second aspect would be that how, due to this present situation of pandemic, the complete ecosystem is affected. And the third part would be that what our national education policy is speaking about. If suppose whether we can, there are something which we can take from the national education policy to sail through this difficult period. And then finally, briefly, I will just introduce that how in this university, which is Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, has introduced, that's the first skill university set up by a government. We are experimenting or we are implementing whatever we are speaking in the world of skill ecosystem. So basically, this will be structured like this. So there is a presentation. I will just take you through that presentation and present.
It's on, sir. Yes, you can go full screen. It's working, sir. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So as I was mentioning that briefly on some facts, generally whosoever is working in the skill ecosystem in this country are familiar with these facts and figure, but just a quick reminder of the statistics that where we are as on date. Everybody knows that only 5 to 6% of India's workforce are having some formal skilling. More than 75% workforce don't have any skill training at all. By 2022, as per the skill report of 2015, there will be a need of additional 109 million skilled workforce in different sector. 70% of labor force resides in the rural area without any formal skills. Only 8 to 9% of current workforce are engaged in the organized formal sector. Another very critical thing which came into limelight during the period of pandemic about the migration pattern in India, that this is the old statistics that internal migration in India was 450 million as per 2011 census. And the change in the pattern since 2001, everybody is talking about the 5 trillion economy. And in order to have that 5 trillion economy, what should be the GDP growth rate? It is expected 12.4. uh, then the contribution of different sectors, agriculture sector, we know that it is 20%. Then secondary, tertiary sector, 25%, 55% respectively. Then for the growth of economy from 8 to 9%, it requires that these sectors, secondary and tertiary sectors, must grow at least 10% to 11% if we are keeping the agriculture sector at constant 4%. And one very critical point which I am mentioning here is that 1% increase in training days leads to 3% increase in the productivity. And overall productivity and skilling, the correlation basically, which is established based on some European studies, that up to 16% of the productivity may get changed if resources are properly skilled. So this is the context, that what is the importance of the skilling ecosystem, what is the importance of skilling the human resource who are working for any nation. So, though we are having a large number of workforce into labor market, and it is a broad spectrum, that the labor force which is in India, where are we in the terms of their either formal education or formal skilling? So you will find that again, whatever I was mentioning in my first slide, that goes and almost similar here, that almost a very big number is not a skill or not trained for the job actually they are performing. This was from the India's perspective. And one information of 2030 that over half of South Asia's youth won't have the skill needed for the future job. So this was a report of GBC, and in the same report, again, it is mentioned that a huge number of students who will be the part of our school education system, even they will not have the appropriate or proper skills required for the future skills about which everybody is talking. So the around 300 million student who will be out from the schooling part, only about 47% will have some such high level of skills. And when on the other side, so this was one side that where we are located right now. And when we are looking at the other side, so the requirement of the skilled resources, skilled human resources, as per the National Policy on the Skill Development 2015, you will find that there are different sectors, and everywhere there is a huge demand for the skilled resources, uh, and few sectors specifically you will see that in the field of either construction or in the field of retail, the demand is comparatively high, and also the incremental demand, if you will see that the incremental demand is also on the higher side, though the maximum workforce is engaged in the field of agriculture. As per the India Skill Report 2021, this is the hiring pattern which is presented in the skill report, that from 2015 to 2021, how our industries in the Indian context are hiring the resources. So some segments are continuously, means their presence are continuous across the years. For example, BFSI retail, you will see that comparatively their presence is felt in almost all the years. And if you will find the last year, means 2021, in this year's report, the hiring pattern is that BFSI, means that is banking, finance and insurance sector. Then this year, a new segment altogether due to that pandemic of 2020 onwards, segment of software, hardware, IT, internet related things. So this was a new aspect altogether, a new aspect added into the system. Otherwise, conventionally, it was a retail, BFSI, construction, and manufacturing. These type of the sectors were there, but you will see from 2020 to 2021, a new segment is added into the hiring pattern in our country. And another information, it is just for the purpose of information, another statistics is that 42 lakh job identified in 12 different countries, means it is the government of India's statistics, that the government is actually in talk with different countries, and especially with the Gulf European countries and some other countries which are conventionally dependent very much on the workforce from India. So again, if you will see here that 26 lakh job opportunities in Gulf, 3 lakh in European countries, 10 lakh in other countries like Singapore, US, New Zealand, like that. So basically, if you will correlate the these two slide, last slide and these particular slide, that not only at the national level, but even at the international level, there is a huge demand of skilled resources. And in India, we are having that capacity, we are having that capability, being some demographic dividend that a large population is in the working age group. So definitely we can take advantage of the situation which is being presented here. Then what are the different type of the job roles basically for which these countries are looking for, or for in which these 42 lakh jobs are presented quickly. I would just present a glance of all this. So if we were talking about the countries, in the Gulf countries, especially UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. So the total resources which are required. So you will find that the top segment, which is here, is the construction segment. Then again, the retail, then the real estate, transport, financial, insurance, manufacturing, community, and personal services like this. So these are few sectors basically in which there is demand in next 5 years, especially coming from the Gulf countries, and the different job roles for which these countries are looking towards India are typically the mention, and means more because the maximum numbers which were anticipated are from the construction segment. So definitely most of the job roles are related to the construction related activities. But yeah, uh, the number or the job roles are changing also, and apart from the construction you will find that the job role of the nurse, and you can say that the personal services basically, so that also is changing in addition to the construction related activity. If you will see the European countries, especially Germany, Netherlands, UK, Sweden, and Switzerland, so here the requirement again altogether a different trend you will find here, that health and social care segment is looking maximum resources from India, that is 95 to 110. And other segments, again the manufacturing, which was not there in that list of Gulf countries, that find place here for the European countries. And the hospitality segment, that is the accommodation and the food segment, again is looking for significant number of resources from India. So again, the different type of the job roles which these countries are looking. So depending upon the requirement, as the health and social care was at the top, so related type of the job roles, and in the field of manufacturing as well as the hospitality segment. So the job roles related to these areas, which I have just shown here, so these job roles are in demand or will be in demand by 2030 by these European countries. Then generally we are saying that some countries with which we are having mature migration system, so means conventionally the workforce are engaged by these countries. These countries are Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, USA, Japan, Malaysia. So in this again, if you will find that the top uh, topmost requirement again comes from the healthcare and social sector, followed by the construction and then manufacturing, and subsequently agriculture, then transport, accommodation, mining, something like this. So altogether, and on the right hand side, you can see that what are the different type of the job roles for which these countries are looking for the resources from India. So broadly, what these slides indicates, that first thing, that we are having a huge potential of skilled resources in country. The challenges also are there, which was presented in first, second, third slide, that workforce which is available with us, that is not properly skilled. And then the subsequent slides, that there is a huge opportunity not only inside our country but outside world also, if the proper system, proper ecosystem of skilling is developed, implemented, and the basic standards are maintained. So there is no dearth of jobs for the skilled resources, either in the inside the country or outside the country. Now, all of a sudden means the most of the projections or most of this statistics were based on the scenario that which was before the pandemic, means before 2020. But after 2020 there is a altogether, means I will say there is a great change in the pattern of hiring, the pattern of skilling. So a lot of changes started taking place. It's not something that these activities started all of a sudden. These changes were there, these changes were taking place in the view of Industry 4.0, because in the automation part, the Internet of Thing type technology were coming into picture. So there was some gradual transition from the conventional manufacturing to the advanced manufacturing was taking place. Dependence on the data science was increasing, but that change will come all of a sudden due to this pandemic. That was not anticipated by any of the industry or any of the statistician or economists who are working in the manpower planning area. So the recent report of World Economic Forum, which was released last year, that report speaks about that. See, there were a lot of opportunity, there were a lot of job opportunities which were available for the young generation, for the youths, but after the present scenario or after the pandemic, the whole system has changed a lot, and especially the hiring pattern, the job portfolios, they are affected, mostly they are affected. So the estimated share of workforce at risk of unemployment, which was presented by in the report of World Economic Forum of 2020, that accommodation and food services, so 47% of the employees were at verge of losing their job or reduction in salary, or in the form of unemployment, and lot many other sectors which were flourishing sectors, basically, which were giving good results. You will see that again there are numbers where the rate of unemployment, because we were looking that manufacturing segment was looking for the resources, the construction segment was looking for the resources. So in most of the sectors there is a, a risk of unemployment. So the conventional sectors are basically, if you will say, that post pandemic, the conventional sectors are losing their charm, basically, or the rate of unemployment is more in the conventional sectors. And on the other hand, the new areas, due to the technological advancement, due to the digitalization, due to the computation, are emerging, and which are giving the opportunities in the newer areas or the new skill sets, if suppose we are having. So if you will see that the same report which is talking about the emerging jobs and the job which are becoming redundant, this list is again presented here, and you will find that in this list of almost 20 new job roles, the conventional jobs are almost eliminated, means these new job roles are coming into the picture, and the industries are giving more emphasis or emphasizing more on the newer job roles which are presented here. So most of the job roles are related to the data science or artificial intelligence or Internet of the Things or something, means which is more towards automation, more towards working with data, and less toward the conventional way of doing that particular type of the job. The skill sets altogether, if you will see that the skill set required, that is again going for a drastic change. So the conventional, we were saying that the cognitive skill is sufficient, or psychomotor skills were sufficient to get a job. But as per the report, if you will see that by 2025, altogether the skill sets are again changed, or there is a landscape change in the requirement of a skill set. So now the focus is on analytical skill, then the complex problem solving, the critical thinking, use of technology, emotional intelligence. So newer type of the skill sets are replacing the old or the conventional skill set, for which we were training our resources, our educational institution, our skill partners, all were training the resources on those conventional areas. So everyone, all the systems will have to rethink, will have to realign their activity, so that the means their training pedagogy, their training strategy may align as per the future requirement for which the world is looking towards. Now, in the same report, if you will just, we will focus for our country, you will see that the number of working age population, it's a huge number. Almost, if you will say, 60 crore people are into this working age group. But the if you will deep dive into the statistics or the factual things, the picture which is emerging is that the first part, that uh, among the workforce in India, what are the competencies which this workforce is having? So the first part, we will see that digital skill among the active population. You will find in the scale of 100, it is 49.2. Comparatively, we can say that we are in a much better position than number of other countries, number of other nations, that almost 50% of our active population is having some sort of digital skills, means they can undertake jobs related somehow to some skills which is required in this area. Then the business relevance of basic education, here you will find that it is only 37%. What it means, that the basic education which is imparted in our education system through our schools, they are not training the resources for the basic need of the business for which the industry is looking for. So they are only giving training to around 37%. Then if you will see the tertiary education sector, again there is not a much change. Means though the tertiary sector, means the higher education or the technical education or the professional education, it is focusing only on 38%. Means again the conventional teaching learning method is not gelling well with the requirement of the future workforce or even the current workforce also. Then the supply of business relevant skill, comparatively, again it is just the 42%. Unemployment rate among the workers with advanced education, though they are educated, but the unemployment rate quite on higher side, 9.2%. Unemployment rate among the with the basic education, comparatively low, 1.6. Then the share of youth not employed, education or training that is again a point to worry, that 31% of youth are not into employment, not into education, not into training. So this is a very, very grim scenario, especially in context to India, that such a huge percentage of population is untrapped, their potential is untrapped. Then the right hand side, if you will see that the labor force participation out of the total, it's only 55% is the participation, and the vulnerability in the employment, again it is 74%, quite on a very, very higher side. Means 74%, you can understand in the terms that they may be in the organized sector, or they are earning for themselves. Means or in the crude words, we can say that they are working on the daily wages, not, they are not getting the structured salary. So even 55% of the population or the labor force participation is there, means they are working, but again 74% are persons who are not into the organized sectors. Then the working condition, impact of gig economy, again 38%, means the working condition due to this this word gig economy is a much talked about word, but again the working condition is depicting altogether a different picture. Unemployment rate is 2.5%. So actually, if you will closely look at this data set, so lot of things can be extracted from the point or the policy prospect, that how we can formulate our policies, how the education policy, how the skilling policies should be prepared, so that they can take care of the grim picture which is presented here. This is from the same report. There is not much difference that what India is looking forward, or which type of the skills set which our country will be requiring income vis-a-vis the requirement by the other countries in the world. More or less, it's becoming identical or similar. So this was some data set related to the education and the skilling ecosystem. You will see that the in our country we are having good number of universities, 1,000 universities are there, a big number of colleges, more than 42,000 colleges, more than 11,000 standalone institute, means more than 50,000 colleges are there, which are there for the higher technical professional education. In the skill development system, 15,000 ITIs are working in this area. We are having a good number of polytechnics which are into the skilling ecosystem. We are having the sector skill councils around 36, maybe the number might have reduced due to merger of some sector skill councils. So then these sector skill councils are basically, or NSDC is operating through the training center or the training partner. So again, 500 training partners, they are having around 1,000 training centers they are having. So altogether, you will see that the higher education system in our country, more than 50,000 institutes, and 10,000 universities are there, which are taking care of the higher education. And comparatively, if you will see, a much lesser number of, again, institutes are working in the field of a skill ecosystem, or in the field of skilling the youth of this nation. Uh, the skill ecosystem, just quickly, that our skill ecosystem, the present skill ecosystem is supported by the National Skill Qualification Framework. So basically, this is a qualification framework which is protecting, or which is defining the skill competency at different levels. So now at least we are having a structure, and around this structure, the whole skill ecosystem of India is developing. So the key bodies which are into this system, the first is the Ministry of Skill Development and Ministry of Education. Then other ministries are also there, which are not directly into a regular sort of skill development program, but they are also running a lot of short-term programs. Then the enablers which are helping in executing the programs are the state level skill development missions. Then at the center, NSDC, their partners, then NSDA, then the different apprenticeship schemes, the NAPs. So these are the different enablers. These are implemented by ITI, the training center, schools, colleges, and all these systems are giving training to the unemployed youth or the marginalized youth in the society, the student in the field of from the universities and colleges. So in this way, the skill ecosystem is operating in our country, though the number, as I mentioned, that this number is comparatively quite low. Now comes that these were whatever we discussed, everything was the facts actually, or the information which was available. Now, what's the way forward that the education policy or the national education policy, which was announced in 2020? So quickly, just a few points I am mentioning here, that how that education policy can be useful in tackling all those challenges, in handling all those challenges which are highlighted in previous slides, that there is a huge demand of skill resources, the skill set is changing. So if the demand of a skill set is there, so how to train such type of resources for those skills? If the skill set is changing, so how to adjust our education system, skilling ecosystem, so that we can also move with the advancement in the field of technology in the world. So the first thing which I would like to highlight here is that which the national education policy is speaking, that the holistic education by including vocational education from the preschool to +2 and then gradually to the higher educational institutions also. Generally what was happening before this education policy, that these were two different verticals altogether. The skilling was one vertical, higher education was another vertical, and there was no cross ventilation between these two verticals. Both were working independently. So the for first time the education policy is talking about that these two must be integrated together. So in 2013, NSQF framework, National Skill Qualification Framework came, but again that National Skill Qualification Framework was operating independently only in the field of the skills. But this policy, this education policy is talking about the National Education Qualification Framework also, and the policy is talking about the integration of NSQF with National Education Qualification Framework. So there was a need that the students must be given exposure of vocational education when they are into the school, so that gradually they will pick up some skills, and if suppose their interest allows them, they can pursue in the higher sector also, I mean higher education also, or they can acquire the high level of skills in subsequent years also. Then the education system was very rigid, but the education policy is talking about learner-centric education, that if the education system, skilling system can provide us that knowledge when I required, where I required, and for whomsoever it is required. So if that provision can be made, so definitely the large number which we were looking, that 30% of the working population, that they were not into any of the system of education or skilling, so probably they may be inducted if suppose the flexibility is there, if suppose the education is the learner centric education. Then third very critical aspect is the multidisciplinary. Right now, the institutions are very compartmentalized. They are just focusing on one sort of developmental activities and leaving behind all other set. So the education policy is talking about the education system must be multidisciplinary, means the student must pursue the area of their interest or get education or a skill into area of their interest, if that facility is available in that institute. So institution must be develop themselves into multi-skilling segments. The flexibility must be there. When we are talking about the flexibility, it means that the multi-point entry exit. So if suppose some student want to exit at any particular point of time, they must have the option to exit at that particular point of time, maybe for any particular reason. And if suppose they want to come back, so they should be allowed to come back with the credits which they earned at the time when they left the system, that should be revived so that they can complete their education. One very important component about which this policy is talking about, that is the recognition of the prior learning. That everywhere we are mentioning that only 4%, 5%, 6% are the skill resources, but in fact the number of skilled resources may be much higher, but the issue is there that their skill is not properly certified. So government or the policy is emphasizing that their skills must be identified and they must be creditized, or the competency certificate in the form of recognition of prior learning should be given, so that it will open the door of the upgradation of their skill, because they will have a certificate of a some bare minimum scaling segment. Then the fifth point which is talking about, that is the internship part or the apprenticeship part. Almost all the degree programs or the higher education program must embed the apprenticeship or the internship into their curriculum, so that the student will get the experience, real lifetime working experience or the practical experience when they will move out or the step of out from the institute or from their colleges. Then the emphasis the education policy is giving on the new age technology, that is AI, then machine 3D machining, something like that, an amalgamation of this with the liberal art, so that they will have the hardcore technical skills as well as the soft skill, about which the World Education Forum reports is also speaking about. So that part has been taken care in this policy document also. Then the entrepreneurial and startup mindset must be developed among the youths, and the curriculum altogether. There is a need that the curriculum not only of the higher education but the skill system should also be changed, so that it can accommodate whatever the development which is taking place into the skill in the field of industry, that can be catered through the higher educational sector or the skill education sector. So whatever this nitty-gritties are there which are explained in the education policy, most of the things in our institute we are adopting, as informed that we are the first skill in university which was inaugurated by Honorable Prime Minister of country in November 2018. And we are running the program at different level, starting from the certificate up to the PhD level. The most of the programs are the vocational programs, so we are calling them diploma vocational or master vocational or bachelor vocational program. And whatever the points which I mentioned in the previous slide, generally in all this program we are taking care that all those things should be met in hand, what was anticipated or what is anticipated by the industry when they will join the industry as a workforce. There's the skill ecosystem of our university that we are taking care of the bulky base also. So the masses should be given some basic skills, and when we are advancing towards the higher level, the specialized skill should be imparted. So from the basic skill up to the skill PhD, all sort of the programs are being offered, and there is a need that other educational institution must also follow some similar type of the system, so that the skill should not be treated separately, but it should be embedded into the main education stream, so that the demand of or the huge demand of skilled resources can be taken care by not only the skill institutes of the country, but by the higher educational or the professional education or the technical education institutes also, because their number is comparatively high. So if we all will work together, definitely we will be in position to create suitable skills to convert them into a suitable employment or the self-employment for the huge working age population of more than 60 crore, or the gainful employment for this purpose. So this was all from my side, and I'm sorry, I think I have encroached time. I'm extremely sorry for that. Without wasting much time, over to you, Mr. Dr. Arjun.
Thank you so much, sir. Very elaborate and also comprehensive presentation. So without any further ado, let me call our discussants. And first I would like to call Sudheesh, sir. Mr. Sudheesh Venkatesh. So do you like to add your inputs? Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Arjun. And I think I'll make up for the time that has so I'll try and keep it brief so that we are still within time. Professor Rathore has covered many aspects. It was a very comprehensive presentation. And of course, coming from the Skills University, he's very much embedded in the goings on in the country on skills. You're able to hear me, right? Okay. Firstly, the point he made about the changes caused by the pandemic and the sweep of accelerated automation and artificial intelligence, which is leading to the risk of unemployment. I think that's very real. It is not only real, but it is also a potential cause of social unrest. So we are sitting on a bit of a time bomb in one sense when we look at what's happening on the unemployment scenario. The second point that also struck me was, he described the emerging and the redundant roles, which is so true. What got us here will not get us there is a very common statement. And therefore, the kind of skills people had in the past may become redundant, and people will need newer skills to survive in the future. The third is, he also referred to the top skill sets, right? And amongst them, there were things like critical thinking and analytical thinking and so on and so forth. See, a lot of these skills cannot be brought about at a later stage. They have to come through education. So the foundation has to be very strong. And unless some of these skills and abilities are developed in the early stages, it may be very hard to get these later. So the connection between education and employability is very strong, right? He also described the skill ecosystem of India the educational institutions that are doing their job, NSDC and its related partners, and so on and so forth. That was also useful information to know. Lastly, he referred to the opportunities for apprenticeship. And to me, that is also important because the industry has a role to play, has an important responsibility in skilling. They have to create those opportunities for apprenticeship. If industry doesn't play ball, then whatever number of training institutions we create, it will not be enough, because at the end of the day, practical training at the industry is very critical. So these are the 5 things that struck me. Of course, he covered a lot more, but these are 5 I picked up from what Professor Rathore said. I'll just go on to add a few points. Again, I'll keep it to 5, and with that, I'll close. The first thing is a lot of the presentation covered the hard skills, which is important and which is what gets most attention. But I do believe that a lot of the future employment will depend on the soft skills. The success of people in jobs is going to depend on soft skills, communication, teamwork, creativity, resilience, critical thinking. Many of these are phrases that Professor Rathore himself used. Now, all of these are soft skills, right? And they are as important as knowing, how to do a mobile phone repair, or how to do how to do carpentry or electrical or whatever, that kind of work, right? So the hard skills need to be combined with soft skills, and soft skills have as much importance, if not more. So that's the first point. The second that I would add is, see, very often we imagine that skill gaps are at the junior levels, right? We think that, our technicians don't have the skills. The person who operates the X-ray machine doesn't have the skill. The person who operates the conveyor belt doesn't have the skill. But my belief is that the skill gap is at all levels, from the technician to the engineer. The gap is there everywhere. So we don't have engineers who can design well. We don't have engineers who can manage a process well. We don't have engineers who can think analytically and mathematically. A lot of them are under-equipped in skills. So skills is not just a problem at the lower level. It's also a problem at the higher level. That's the second. The third is, just as much as there is a skills problem, we also have a counter problem of qualified people not having jobs, right? And if you talk to many people in the country today, they say, look, I have the qualification, I have a master's degree, I have a PhD, but where is the job? Now, this is a complex problem, right? On one hand, we are saying that we don't have people who have the skills. Industry is saying that. And on the other hand, people are saying, look, I have the qualification, but where is the job? Now, this is the complex intertwining of education, employability, and employment. Unless, we fix this whole chain, it will be a solution in parts. And, the country, as somebody described it, is having both a prepare problem and a repair problem, right? So we have to fix both. So the education, employability, and employment has to be seen together. The fourth point is, a lot of the future skills that will be required will be of the nature that is creative and multidisciplinary. A lot of the abilities that people are expected to display are a combination of things, right? You need to have manual dexterity with some critical thinking. You need to know a little bit of, you need to have a little bit of mathematical thinking together with some creative instincts. Now, a lot of the future, because these are not jobs that have been done before, will require creative and multidisciplinary thinking, which means our education systems have to respond to this. the last point, and with that I'll close, is, our skilling system also has to emphasize that you are not preparing people only for their first job. The first job will become redundant in a few years. The skills of the first job will become redundant in the few years. So our system should prepare people for not just the first job, but the second and the third jobs. Now, what does that mean? That means people will need to learn how to learn. They need to be able to continuously learn. They need to be able to seamlessly move from one skill set to another skill set. If I use, the language of software, you may have started in COBOL, but you must have moved to Java, and from Java, you must be able to move to Python, right? And how does that come? That comes from an ability to constantly learn. So skilling needs to recognize this as well. So those are 5 additional points to what Professor Rathore has already covered. And let me hand it over back to you, Arjun.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for adding all those points. And next, I would like to invite Dr. G Sridevi, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Arjun.
Over to you. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Rathore, for giving a very detailed talk on the skill development. I'll focus on 4 points, basically. The first aspect is, the question I have is use of the term skilled as well as unskilled, because this is derogatory and doesn't value the work actually when we say unskilled and skilled. It is further reflects in gender, caste, wage, class biases. So therefore, what is important is to understand and unearth the meaning of skill in every work actually. It can be participatory, bottom up. Any idea that is top down would continue with these biases, even if we have empty number of programs of the skill development. The premise of it is non-recognition of the skills people possess. It is around their positions that more can be added to bring the additional values of the science and technology. The most important when we are talking about the access to employment and various types of the skill development, as you say, the basic question is, are we able to provide the access to education to all the groups equally in the society? When I say all the groups, socially as well as in terms of gender also. Because the recent report very clearly says that 1/4 of the scheduled tribes and 1/5 of the scheduled caste actually quit class from 9th to 10th grade in 2019 and 20. And the numbers show very high numbers, especially for Assam, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, from these social groups. And the dropout rate of the female children is very, very high. But when on a contradictory note, when we look into the dropout rates of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes with reference to some of the southern states, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana, actually the dropout rate is higher for the general dominant caste group students at the secondary level than for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe. That could be because the state emphasizes on the primary education both in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The school education is given emphasis in the name of the Gurukuls or the special facilities provided to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe girls. So that actually made them to reach to the higher levels. Like in Telangana, we see since last 4 years, there is a tremendous improvement of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe and OBC students doing very well at the high school level, even at the intermediate level, who are coming from the Gurukuls. That is because the kind of the training they're getting at the school level is very, very important. even in the context of the pandemic, actually education did turn out to be a protective factor. Those who have actually 12 years of the education were actually much less likely to be unemployed based upon the various data sets in April 2020 than those with less than 12 years of the education and with daily wage jobs. And it is a well-known fact that there exist the caste gaps at higher levels of the education, which have either remained static or widened over the last 3 decades. But the current pandemic is further likely to exacerbate these educational differences between the various social groups. That is because since last 1.5 years, we have been talking about the online education. So in the current phase of the school closures, parents of marginalized groups are not able to support their children as they are not actually equipped with the online technology, or they may not be having the access to the internet, various other gadgets required to attend the classes. So it is actually very difficult for these children to learn from home through online teaching methods. This is actually a study by Ashwini Deshpande and Rajesh by using the CMI data also proves that the proportion of the employed upper caste dropped from 39% to 32% between December 2019 and 2020 April. But this proportion is much higher for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and OBCs. That is because low levels of the education among these marginalized groups. And this has become like it is actually leading to a huge gap in terms of the educational differences between the children of the marginalized groups vis-a-vis others. And the other important aspect is the material conditions, the living conditions are also significantly different. They do also affect the cognitive skills of the children. And only 20% of the upper caste households have access to internet, and 10% of the scheduled caste households have access to the internet. So these differential access to information and technology for the disadvantaged groups has a huge impact in rising the productivity levels coming from these two groups. And most importantly, training of the teachers also itself is a big challenge, because learning outcomes for vocational courses online has a negligible value addition in learning capacity, because as skill and vocational is lab-based or model of a learning physically, most of the skill development targets has to be from the, as Professor Venkatesh was mentioning, it should be from the LKG to 10th grade or whatever it may be, the school level, the multi-dimensional approach, they have to use it. And the creativity of the children has to be developed during that period. But the children who are coming from the rural background, who do not have access to the internet or smartphone, can we expect them to have the same kind of the skill development? That is the one point. And when we are always talking about the skill development, even there exists the kind of the institutional discrimination in providing the skill development or technical development in terms of the gender as well as in terms of the caste also. It is very clear in most of the corporate sectors, even public sector, there exists the institutional discrimination. Maybe it could be at various levels, core or peripheral, or it may be because of the feedback effects. There exists always a kind of a glass ceiling for the female employees. So when with so many kinds of social and economic discriminations, can we really think about the equal skill development and access to all the groups in the future, or equal access to the employment in the future is my larger question. So in that context, the way forward would be setting up, as you said, setting up vocational training institutions that provide training in high employability areas. Or it is also important to provide the interest-free loans to the low income and marginalized students to have the higher access to the higher level of the education and the technical skills. And also to provide the incentives to various private organizations to hire the students and provide the job trainings, because that's what we see now in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is trying to provide the training skills for the bachelor students of the engineering and various other fields during the second year onwards, so that they'll have a greater exposure for the long run employment opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sridevi. And next, I will go to Dr. Pabitra Jena, sir.
Yeah.
Sir?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Arjun. So that Professor Randhir Singh Rathore has given a nice contour when you talk about that state of skill and employment in India. So after that, Mr. Sudheesh Venkatesh also has given some additional part, and my teacher, like Dr. Sridevi, from where I have got my master degree, he also explained in which situation how it is possible that we can get like people that we can get actually more skilled people. So I have actually 4 points where I want to concentrate my like comment. So the first thing is that if you see the current situations about the state of employment and the skill, so the picture is not good. To give more job, you know that near about 25%, that is 24% employment is actually absorbed by MSME sectors. And when the government could not concentrate on more on like in demand side factor, that's why during pandemic time, even if it like declare so many package, but it could not attract the MSME to take loan from the bank. So here the government should come forward and to strengthen more on demand side factors, so that MSME can be activated and more like employment can be generated. For that, more skill is required. Another thing is that we can see that only that one, but I know according to my knowledge that Vishwakarma Skill University is the one skill university in India. According to me, that every state there should be one like skill university, because if you see that that traditional university institution, technical institutions, they are actually degree machine shops. It's not, they are not producing the skill manpower, because I'm also working in the institutions. I have read in some of the institutions here, students are not more skill oriented, they are more like syllabus oriented, they are more like mark oriented, to be very frank. Why? Like if you talk about like education system in abroad, that is more project based, that out of 100 marks, so 60 to 75 mark is a project based. When they acquire the certain level of skill, then they get the degree. But here the situation is something different. Here in our time it is totally 100% theoretical. Now slowly it is becoming less skill based, 10 to 20%. But according to me, minimum 60% should be skill based education. So that syllabus, we need to revamp the total syllabus. So out of the 100 marks, 60 to 70 marks we should give on their like what they have done in project, how they are practically working in a particular like problem, how they're tackling that problem, instead of like giving some concept, theoretical concept, and they're writing an example. That is not going to work. So that is actually the main important things. As that sir was telling, Professor Randhir Singh Rathore, that we have more than 1,000 university, but 1,000 university, they are only producing like degree holder, but they are not producing the skill labor. For skill labor, you need to design the like skill oriented student. For that reason, we need to create a lot of vocational educations, vocational education institution in forms of like technical institution, ITI, and also general level of educations. That is actually more need of the hour. Also, the last point I would like, the government has to invest more on education. That like annual budget should emphasize more on education. If you talk about that, like advanced countries like USA, China, near about to 5 to 6% of their like GDP they spend on education and research and development. But however, in India, it's hardly like 1%. So once you spend try to spend more on educations, then we'll able to able to make the people more skilled. And the skill, if when there will be more skill, they'll get employment in a different sector. As the economics, I can tell that the opportunity cost of like spending on like education is more when you are not spending on education and spending on more on popular type of scheme, that which are making people unproductive. They are getting something in free instead of they are earning, and in the long term that is going to harm to the nations. So instead of educating them and spending more on that, if you invest more on popular like social sector scheme, for the vote it is good for the short run, but long run it is going to create a huge problem. So these are the point I would like to add. Thank you to all for patient listening. Thank you. Over to Arjun now. I'm done, Arjun. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, Professor Randhir sir, over to you. Would you like to take the suggestions and comments by the panelists?
No, nothing more from my side. So whatever the panelist added, definitely these points should appropriately be embedded into any of the policy document to be prepared for the future. So nothing more to add. Thank you.
Right. And sir, how do you see some of the policy levers also working? Because we also have now a lot of focus on the digital India. So how do you see this thing also? And you have also highlighted that the new skills which are required are also of a very dynamic kind. So how do you see that moving forward in our skilling system?
Sorry, I could not get, I'm sorry.
So I was saying that the focus on digital India and the digital programs, how do you see that it will be integrated in our skill development system in our country going forward?
Because as Mr. Sudheesh was also mentioning that the skills are not only the hardcore means hardware related skills, but many other components are also there. Soft skills, then your programming skills. So if suppose you will just keep the hard skills aside, so all the remaining skills which the industry is looking for or looking forward, so definitely through this the digital platform, through the Digital India network, they can be taken care of. There they can be they can reach to masses, because if suppose something related to, let's say, cloud computing, which is an emerging area. So the faculty or the expert may be located somewhere in the Bangalore, but if we have to train a large mass, large population, so that should reach to the masses of tier 2, tier 3 cities also. So definitely Digital India can play a very important critical role through this online mode of teaching, online mode of learning. So such knowledge can be transferred to the masses.
Right. Thank you, sir. And sir, how do you see the prospects of self-employment? Because we also have a scheme, Mudra scheme, and other where we give access to finance. Because many people are also starting after skilling their own self-employed activities.
I will just interpret it in the sense that if suppose first first critical thing is giving them a skill. So if suppose somebody is skilled, automatically his confidence level actually increases, and once his confidence level increases, then if you are sending the person to an incubator or to self-employment entrepreneurship type of the system, so definitely he will be more successful. Let's say I will just quickly give an example. We are running a program with Hero Motocorp, that is a program on mechanical manufacturing. So the student is there in the Hero Motocorp for 3 years. So during that 3 years training there, means 50% time he is there as intern. So he knows every aspect of a bike. So how to assemble an engine, dismantle the engine, all the components. He is aware of all the component. So suppose that student want to do something, if he want to become, let's say, even a motor mechanic. So if some finance is given to this particular person, so he will be much more successful in comparison to any other person. So the first aspect is that include the scaling part. Means in all education, if somebody is skilled, one he's get one or two skills, then definitely his interest will also be developed, and all these skills, all the supporting skills toward the entrepreneurship, it's my thinking that they will be more successful.
Right, right, sir. And many questions I have also gathered, sir. As you mentioned, the problem is of scale. Our country, almost a subcontinent, and now also the private firms. I work in housing, urbanization, real estate. There also we have big builders. So 7, 8 cities give their data of how much industry data. Now we have all India survey for higher education, so those number real time also coming, and the industries are also coming. For example, I will tell you a news which came last month, that in April, June, there was more openings vis-a-vis, and that is coming from LinkedIn and other profiles. 1.5 lakh more new jobs has been created. These things are also coming, sir. How do you see the issue of scale? Because the state you are dealing with, Haryana, they are also a much of now a reservation bill also in private sector. All those things are coming. The issue is really getting, especially our demography, very bulging for youth, especially for women. So how do you see this scale factor or our Prime Minister has also launched Atmanirbhar districts and, one district, one product, many things coming, promoting sports and other. So how do you see which direction we are moving, manufacturing services, many other things also, sir?
As I said that there no doubt that number is a very on a very higher side, and to deal with such a number means to deal at some that scale, the collective work or the collective efforts will have to be uh, given a serious thought. So first part is that if suppose all the educational institutions are working in the area, means they will have to leave aside the conventional thing what they were doing. They will have to adopt something new. Maybe they can take something out from the national education policy. The second thing is that, as Mr. Sudheesh was rightly mentioning, that the industries also will have to come forward and they will have to partner with the institutions. So if suppose that combination takes place, when the student is admitted in an institute and at the same time he is getting apprenticeship in some nearby industry, that embedding is there. So definitely that individual will be more employable. In that way we can take care of the scale also. Otherwise individual at institution level it is not possible. So collectively all the different components, all the stakeholders will have to work, all the schemes will have to operate simultaneously together. Then definitely we can achieve whatever the objectives we have set for ourselves.
Right, right. And so nationally, we also have this National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, NAPS. But really, the reach is very, low because it feels like this becomes a more of a burden to the teachers and the staff at universities. One more layer, of coordinating. So that really needs to strengthen. One question I also thought to ask from Sudheesh sir. Uh, uh, Sir, time and again, so you have been raising the point of communication, soft skills, resilience, so many which are inherent. And when I have got chance and IMPRI, our organization team also, all the top international labor experts are also saying that, okay, this intervention will not work unless you have a very strong school system. So what reform measures are needed there? Because if that is required, so we should also focus that up to class 10 or 12, these are the soft skills which should be imparted as also some generic or standard level of skill development or infusion to our children uniformly. How do you see that moving? Yes.
Yeah. So the point you make is correct. And, internationally, the recognition that soft skills need to be developed from the schooling system itself is, I think, absolutely correct. Let's take some examples, right? I gave a few, essentially drawing from Professor Rathore's presentation only. Communication, right? Now, what is communication? Communication is the ability to put a point across, either spoken or written, in a way that the audience is able to understand, right? That is an activity which comes by structuring the thought in the mind, a gift with language, a certain stage presence, an ability to confidently put across the point, right? These are the things that go beneath it. Now, what does that mean in terms of school education? Structuring a thought, which means that, instead of just mugging up what is called rote learning, if the children are encouraged to think for themselves, then when you think for yourself, obviously, you are able to structure a point of view. Let's take the next thing. The ability to speak in a in meaningful sentences in any language. It need not be English. It can be Hindi, it can be Kannada, it can be whatever, right? How does that come? That comes by encouraging people to read widely. It's not enough if you just read the textbook. You need to read widely. You need to be given opportunities to express that in writing. Not just one examination at the end, but continuous writing assignments, which help the child to perfect that. The next element is confidently speaking, right? Now, how does that come? That comes through practice. It also comes through the fact that the child gets encouraged rather than criticized. If the child is encouraged to come up and speak, rather than being put down and discouraged for the mistakes that she made, you will find that people will become better speakers. So I've just taken one element, which is communication as a soft skill, and connected it to school education. I can take all the other elements, whether it is teamwork or whether it is resilience or whether it is critical thinking, and then describe how school education will make a difference. If we don't do this in school education, then it is very hard later on to fix this. That's the point I was making. Yeah, back to you, Arjun.
Right. Thank you, sir. It's almost quite time. So should I invite each of our panelists for providing the way forward within a minute or so? So let me start with Pabitra, sir.
Yeah.
Way forward, what do you like to suggest?
Yeah, as I told that Vishwakarma University is doing good. So my policy suggestion to the government will that government should open at least one skill university in every state, and in future it can plan more, and also like it's that, and in that university, that program, we should revamp the entire syllabus, and the entire syllabus should be skill oriented rather than mark oriented and degree oriented, and that will save us from this type of unemployment that we are going through, that unemployment situation in India. So really we need to skill the people, and so that's why we need to, as I told, we need to give more emphasis on skill educations. That is the only solution we need in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Pabitra sir. Sridevi ma'am.
I already mentioned previously that the emphasis need to be at the school education. Once we provide a very strong multidisciplinary holistic school education, it takes care of the future requirements basically. Actually, that we see the children who are coming from the curriculums of the CBSE and then IB curriculum or ICGSE, there is a huge difference how they perform at each level. So my emphasis should be on the state should play an important, crucial role in providing access to the high quality education at school level to all the groups, especially focusing on the female children and the marginalized groups. And the second aspect need to be, the access to the skill development programs all should be more, it should be made equal. These are the 2 points, Arjun. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sudheesh sir.
Yeah. So I'll just make 2 points. The first one is, recognizing that this is a central issue for the country is itself half the battle won. So I think the powers in our political and bureaucratic systems recognizing that skills is a central issue in the country, which seems to be happening in the last few years. That itself is half the battle won. The second is the NEP, like Professor Rathore repeatedly mentioned, offers many practical solutions. Flexibility in terms of entry and exit, no streaming of students, apprenticeship opportunities for students, etc. All of this are included in the NEP, right? So if we methodically implement the NEP, then I think we have a good way forward. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And Randhir, sir, over to you for your concluding comments. And sir, also we missed about talking about retention, because this program are working, but all the international players also now coming, making metrics that, retention rate is less. How do we also go forward, having India to move forward strongly also in the economic and social part?
Retention in the term, sorry.
Sir, after skill development also, some people get job for 3 months, 6 months, and then it's not continued.
Okay.
Many of those things also coming in practice wherever skilling is going on.
So probably Mr. Sudheesh touched this point, that skilling is not a terminal activity, that once you are skilled, that's a permanent in nature. So there is a continuous need of reskilling and upskilling, because the skill set is very dynamic. They are changing, means every day there is some change in some sort of skills. So to remain into that, the institutes, right now what is happening, all the institutes, whether the educational institution or the skill development institution, they are just working on one aspect to prepare them for a particular skill. But generally that aspect is neglected, that is upskilling and reskilling. So all the institutes must actively work in this area also. They should work for, in the off time, I can say that after 5 o'clock, they should create the facility to upskill the resources. If suppose the need is there of reskilling, because as I mentioned somewhere, that the migration means of labor, that is a big problem basically. Why people are migrating? Because that facility or that employment opportunity is not there. But it's not possible to create such employment opportunity in his place where he is living. But what we can do, if suppose whatever opportunity is there in his place, if he can or she can be skilled there, means that means that he can be re-skilled for that activity. So again, he can be employed in that part also. So reskilling, upskilling, skilling, this is a cycle, and this cycle should go continuously without a break basically. So this is one point. The second point, Dr. Pabitra was mentioning that all the states must have a skill university. I am looking this from other perspective, that all the universities must work as a skill university. The national education policy is also talking about this, that there must be multidisciplinary approach. Means we should not be focused that if I am agriculture university, I will not do anything else than teaching the agriculture. You have a huge infrastructure. Government has invested a huge money in the terms of the project, equipment, machinery. Why only one part? Why cannot you do some other thing also? If suppose you are agriculture university, the agriculture marketing, the food processing, lot more can be thought. So all the universities must be multi-skilling or multidisciplinary, and they should work in this area. And third, the close coordination between the different stakeholders, that is public, that is the institution and the industry. So all must work hands in hand to make it a success.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So let me now quickly just propose a formal vote of thanks for this very important and insightful deliberation today on the topic, the state of skill development in India, impact policies and the way forward amidst coronavirus pandemic. And this talk was under the series The State of Employment and Livelihood, hashtag employment debate, organized by IMPRI Center for Work and Welfare. And we are very thankful for our speaker for today, Professor Randhir Singh Rathore, sir, who is Professor of Planning, Policy Planning and Research at Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us your very insightful things, what you are also doing with the university and how we can move forward, especially after this pandemic, and your excellent lecture and presentation, sir. Thank you. And I'm also thankful to our discussants, Sudheesh Venkatesh, sir, who is with us in Premji Foundation, Dr. G Sridevi ma'am from Hyderabad University, and Dr. Pabitra Jena, sir, from SMBTU, Katra. Thank you, all of you, for your very insightful comments on this very important talk. And also thank you to all the participants here and those who are watching us at Facebook Live and would watch later at YouTube and our different podcasts. Thank you very much. Do join us for our next episodes. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Please take
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.